It is 6 o'clock. It's time to call our special meeting to order. It can. Would you call the roll, please?
Brooks,
Here.
Harmon,
Here.
Lilly,
Here.
McMahon, High,
Here.
Keplinger,
Here.
Sanders,
Here.
Williams.
Just take the agenda, please.
Members of the council, we had two items on the agenda for this evening. However, we were kind of a little bit ambitious on the one with respect to waste management. We don't have a contract ready to present tonight, so I'm going to ask that be tabled when we get to that item. With respect to item number 2 regarding the sales and use tax bonds, I think Ms. Burnett would like to give the council a brief report as to today's activities.
Thank you. Pass around a summary sheet that we can discuss. First of all, I'd like to thank you all for agreeing to the special meeting this evening. As I've discussed with some of you, I believe, we have a busy October calendar for Arkansas Paper. In particular, the City of Rogers will be offering $175 million on October 22nd, which is your scheduled meeting date. And we could not recommend the city offering bonds on the same day that amount of other bonds were going to be offered. So I appreciate you agreeing to meet today. First of all, to talk a little bit about the process, a little bit different this time than the other bonds you've issued. As you know, the voters authorized $38.5 million in bonds to be backed by the 3/4 of a cent sales tax. In meeting with your city staff, $22 million is ready with regard to projects and spending that money. So this bond issue was structured to generate $22 million in funds with the expectation that a subsequent issue would occur for the remaining authorized amount. Okay? So when we structure this bond issue, we have to make certain assumptions in order for the potential bondholders to understand what kind of coverage they're talking about. When I say coverage, that basically means for every dollar in debt service, how much in tax collections does the city have available to cover it? It's very, it plays into the rating analysis, it plays into the investor analysis, and we don't know about that second issue, right? The market is very soft right now. We're talking maybe 2 years away, and so we just made some certain assumptions, and so I'll share those with you as we go through these numbers. The par amount of bonds that were offered this morning is $21,875,000 with, like I mentioned, the available projects for $22 million. So you might say, how can we have a par less than the amount available for projects? The bonds were sold at a premium. Basically, investors are willing to pay up, if you will, or pay more than $1 per bond in order to have a higher interest rate. So there was a premium of about $506,000 to provide total sources of funds of $22,381,000. The bonds were rated. Unlike your other bond issues, these bonds were rated. We went through a rating process with Moody's. Your mayor and city clerk treasurer and I were on a teleconference with an analyst. I believe he's out of Dallas. And we went through information about the city, the growth of the city, told the city's story, basically. And then we also talked about the structure of the bonds. We were very pleased when they came back with a double A3 rating. And, of course, everybody always wants to know, well, how does that compare to other cities? And it's really kind of hard to give you, I would have prepared a chart, but that's not always a true representation, because in addition to the economics of the city, the ratings group looks at the coverage on the deal. So you might have a bond issue that has 3 times coverage, or a bond issue that has 1.2 times coverage. And so that plays into the rating. But I will say that the state of Arkansas is AA1. Little Rock is AA1, and you're AA3. So that was a great rating. Very pleased with that. The maximum annual debt service on this bond issue to stated maturity, so we structured a 25-year issue, is December 1, 2043. But you can see the maximum annual debt service is $1,314,000 for this issue. When we consider the subsequent issue, which we just assumed 4.85% just to be conservative, we compared that number to your tax collections for the 12 months ending September of 2018. We used a rolling 12-month number, and that number is $3,827,000. So when you compare the $3,827,000 to the maximum annual debt service on both these bonds and then the subsequent issue, that surplus is what's used to pay down the bonds early. So the stated maturity is 2043. We project with 0% growth, the bonds will be paid off in less than 13 years, or June 1, 2031. And the true interest cost on these bonds were a 3.29%, which we were very pleased. That was actually 6 basis points better than what the mayor and I discussed yesterday. As you all know, just from the media, the market has been very soft. We have a lot of insurance companies that buy municipal bonds, and here comes Hurricane Michael. Well, insurance companies aren't going to be buying bonds. They're going to be holding their cash in anticipation of the hurricane. So we were really concerned about that, in addition to just a soft market. You know, you normally think that if people are selling off in the stock market, they'd be interested in municipal bonds, but we have some buyers that are just sitting on the sidelines. That said, we had a very successful sale this morning. I had several, and this is really unusual for a sales and use tax transaction. I actually spoke to 3 different potential bond buyers this morning directly. My sales guy called me and said, "Hey, can you get on a call and talk about structure of the bonds, the projected payoff, how you got to this number?" And then they ended up putting in some orders. So we were very, very pleased. You can see the remaining calendar is, of course, if you choose to adopt the ordinance and bond purchase agreement, it'll be executed this evening, which will lock in these rates. And then we would close the issue November 29th when the project funds would be available to the city. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And Kirby is here as well as your bond counsel.
Rather than asking for a motion to waive the reading requirement, may I ask for a motion to waive to allow the reading of the ordinance by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Keplinger,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Williams, aye.
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Harmon,
Aye.
McMahon.
Aye. An ordinance authorizing the issuance of sales and use tax bonds for the purpose of financing the cost of capital improvements, pledging a sales and use tax to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds, prescribing other matters thereto, relating thereto, and declaring an emergency. That is the first reading of the ordinance.
Move to suspend the rules and place the ordinance on second reading.
Second.
Keplinger,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
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 Sanders,
Aye.
Brooks, aye. Harmon,
Aye.
McMahon.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of sales and use tax bonds for the purpose of financing the cost of capital improvements, pledging a sales and use tax to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds, prescribing other matters relating thereto, and declaring an emergency. That is the second reading of the ordinance.
May we suspend the rules and place it on the third and final reading?
Second.
Second.
Keplinger,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
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 Sanders,
Aye.
Brooks, aye. Harmon,
Aye.
McMahon.
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance of sales and use tax bonds for the purpose of financing the cost of capital improvements, pledging a sales and use tax to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds, prescribing other matters relating thereto, and declaring an emergency. That is the third reading of the ordinance.
Move for the adoption.
Second.
Keplinger,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
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 Sanders,
Aye.
Brooks, aye. Harmon,
Aye.
McMahon.
Aye.
And there is an emergency clause.
Keplinger,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
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 Sanders,
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Harmon, McMahon.
May I have a motion to table item 3 on the agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
Keplinger,
Aye.
Lilly,
Aye.
Williams, Aye.
Aye.
Sanders,
Aye.
Brooks,
Aye.
Harmon,
Aye.
McMahon.
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second.